please take note that this video is opinion based and should not be taken seriously. Also, this video will be heavy on spoilers, so if you haven't played Fate Extra yet and do plan to play it eventually, do not watch this video. So, Fate Extra Record will be coming out hopefully in the near future, and just from the trailers alone, it already looks pretty good, and I can't wait for its release. So, with that in mind, I wanted to talk about the game that opened the door to gaming for the Fate franchise, Fate Extra. Fate Extra happens in an alternate universe where the world has essentially reached the end of the line and humanity has started to dwindle. Because of the state of the world, magecraft has essentially stopped being practical, and instead, magus turn their way to the Moon Cell, a supercomputer left inside the moon by aliens, where they could now perform a different type of magecraft called hacking. Well, this is going a weird direction already. Anyway, in doing so, they discovered the Moon's Holy Grail War, a unique type of war with 128 participants, and whoever wins gets to control the Moon Cell, which would be like getting a Holy Grail. Unlike other Holy Grail Wars, where it's a battle royale and kind of for every person for themselves, the Moon's Holy Grail War functions on different rules. There's no battle royale here, it's a tournament-like competition, divided by rounds of one-on-one fights. The winners move to the next round to fight other winners, and the losers, well, they die. And you, the MC, woke up along with every other participant in this war and must now survive, uncovering the truth of the moon as well as your own personal truth. It's all about survival now. Fate Extra's plot is even more simplified than your normal Holy Grail Wars, which you would think would lead to a more boring storytelling. But sometimes, simple is scarier. Remember how I mentioned that losers die? Well, I want you to remember all the other Holy Grail Wars, like for example, the Fate route of Fate Stay Night, where Shiro kills Berserker and then brings Ilya home. That ain't happening in Fate Extra. While in a normal Holy Grail War, likable people can be kept alive by simply having the servant die and not killing the master, in Fate Extra, the servant losing means that the master also dies. Oh boy, we're going for a roller coaster. And that is perhaps Fate Extra's greatest strength. While it might be simpler and more toned down, the fact that you ultimately are going to have to kill characters that you like is by far one of the most emotional roller coasters that any Fate story can give. With a simpler story, this means that the characters have an even greater duty to carry the game than in most Fate stories. So, how do they do? Well, let's start with the main characters cast. For main characters, you have Hakuno, the 3 optional servants, and Rin and Ranny. So, to start off, I'll throw the 3 optional servants out already. The 3 optional servants are well made and extremely likable, and are very fleshed out. The one that probably suffers the most out of the 3 is Archer, but that's mostly because if you have any knowledge about Unlimited Blade Works' route, then Archer doesn't have anything new to offer other than his snarky remarks. You already know everything about his past. But even so, he's still a pretty good servant to pick, if not just because of how awesome he is. Also, I would like to mention that out of the 3 servants, Archer is the only one that will kill you at the start if you pick the wrong answer. Oh, Archer, I love it when you're a jerk. As for Hakuno, Hakuno is the main character, and the story pretty much plays through their perception. They are also a silent protagonist, meaning that they will never talk. But they're not emotionless, which is the weird part. Normally, silent protagonists are completely silent, in both mouth and mind. They are literal walls for other characters to talk to. However, in Hakuno's case, while they never talk, they are constantly sinking. A lot actually. And that's one of the things that I like about Hakuno. Rather than someone who talks their hearts out, Hakuno thinks a lot, giving us a lot of their perceptions and how they are perceiving everything that's happening around them, only chiming in to disagree or agree with some remarks. As for their development, Hakuno starts off somewhat of a blank slate. They have no memories of their past and they're not even sure if they're really alive at some points. However, they do possess a high level of survivor's will, and it's this will to survive that will be tested throughout the story. As they encounter enemies and defeat them, Hakuno will many times question if their will to survive is more important than the wishes and dreams of others. Regardless though, Hakuno in general serves as a good MC for the story of Fate Extra. Now, finally, we have Rin and Ranny. These are your big helpers throughout the story, providing you clues and items for challenges ahead. However, at one point in the story you will have to pick one of them to save. The one you picked will lose the round but won't die. However, the catch is that you'll have to fight the other one later down the line, resulting in you killing them. So I'll be honest here, Rin is Rin, there ain't no explanation needed as to why she's amazing. But Ranny, I understand what they were going for, but she is in no way capable of competing with Rin in likability. Especially in the original Fate Extra where she has the personality of a doll. So Rin is a good character, but Ranny isn't that good in the original Extra. She gets better in Triple C, but that's not what we're talking about here. So the option of picking between Rin and Ranny, let's be very honest here, most people only picked Ranny so that they could see her side of the story. Otherwise, they would have always picked Rin. And now that we have the main characters out of the way, let's talk about the other cast. Since this is a tournament like war, then all that's left is the enemies. The first enemy that you face is none other than Shinji and Drake. Drake is cool and all, but she wasn't that explored or fleshed out in the original Extra, to be completely honest. For the most part, their relationship felt like that of a lord and a mercenary, Drake always demanding more gold from Shinji to do anything. As for Shinji, he was picked as the first enemy on purpose. Shinji is cocky, a jerk, annoying, and takes to war as a game. In general, not the best of personalities. So it makes sense that he would be your first opponent. They are lowering the danger levels to make you think that this is all a game, and whether you win or lose, it doesn't matter. And then Shinji loses and... I'll be honest, as much as I hate Shinji, I was already aware that this Shinji wasn't the same trash as the one from Fate Stay Night. So even I felt a bit sad in seeing him realize that he's about to die. That said, the whole line of him being an 8-year-old was just dumb. Like, sure, his persona makes sense if he's a brat, but you can't expect me to care when it's only revealed in the last line. Regardless though, Shinji was a good first enemy. He was in general unlikable, so killing him wasn't too hard, and he served his purpose as a tutorial opponent. But oh boy, the next ones really made me sad. So the next opponents are Dan Blackmore and Robin Hood. Forget everything you saw in Last Encore, if you even saw it. Dan Blackmore and Robin Hood are by far the most wholesome pair in the whole Fate Extra franchise. So Dan is a retired soldier that was knighted by the Queen of England, and he is participating in the Holy Grail War by order of the Queen. As for Robin Hood, I probably don't need to introduce him too much, but he's a scoundrel that will try to win by any means necessary. Or at least, that's what it seems in the surface. In reality, Dan joined the war out of his own volition. Due to his profession as a sniper, Dan rarely saw his wife, and while he was out working, she died suddenly, leaving him with a great regret. He joined the war hoping to bring his wife back. Yet, despite this wish, Dan treats the war as a contest, unlike Robin who wants to win at all costs since defeat means death. Dan's old age have made him uncaring of death, even with a wish motivating him forward. As such, unlike in his younger years as a sniper where he would act cold and calculating, Dan chose to act in a knight-like way during the war. As such, despite how much Robin tries to kill the MC before the fight, Dan only shows up to restrain and fix whatever Robin might have tried doing, then reprimanding Robin for acting in such an unknightly way. As such, you would suspect Robin to hate Dan, but in reality, Dan doesn't treat Robin badly. His reprimanding is equivalent to how a father would reprimand their son when they misbehaved. In the end, as both Dan and Robin are dying, Dan thanks the MC for the satisfying battle and for letting him reunite with his wife in the afterlife. Robin also chimes in that even if he disliked how things turned out, playing the knight role was still more fun than he had expected. And oh boy, we're just getting started with the characters, cause now we're moving to the third round. Moving on to the third opponents, they are Alice and Nursery Rhyme. So, to say that they started off creepy would be an understatement. At first, they are very much acting like the creepy murderous children of a horror movie. However, the more you interact with Alice, the more she softens up and acts more friendly. So even though in the beginning they act very creepy, by the end, Alice is much more adorable and likable. Alice is a tragic character that is actually a ghost, or rather she's a digital footprint of someone who's already passed away. She was a child that lost everything due to a war and was hospitalized. There she was experimented with and eventually would leave her footprint in the digital world, which is how she ended up in this war. Alice doesn't actually have a wish or desire to win. Instead, she sees this as an opportunity to have fun since she spent so much time in the hospital unable to do anything. As for Nursery Rhyme, she's essentially Alice's only friend. While Alice was hospitalized, she only had a book to keep her company, that being Nursery Rhyme. So when she summoned the servant, it was Nursery Rhyme that was summoned. Their ending is by far one of the most bittersweet endings. You would think that with Alice knowing that she's about to die, that she would be crying and begging for help as any normal child would do. But she doesn't. Instead, Alice thanks the MC and Nursery Rhyme for all the fun they've had, and that she's not sad since she already knew that she was dead a long time ago. The one who's crying is Nursery Rhyme, who doesn't want to forget Alice, since Nursery Rhyme is a servant that when summoned changes into a mirror-like identity of whoever summons them, and she wants to keep Alice's memories. If you played FGO and ever wondered why Nursery Rhyme has that form, now you know. Her desire to keep Alice's memories alive is what allowed her to keep that form. And there's many more characters after this, but I believe that you already get the point. Since the plot is very simple, Fate Extra instead fleshes out your opponents so that when you're facing them in the round, it really feels like a very difficult fight. Before every round, you have to go around collecting information, interrogating people, and you will, step by step, find out more about your opponent's background. Now, not all characters have the same amount of fleshing out, and I will say this. The second and the third round are by far the more emotional. The rest do start to feel a bit repetitive. The last round also feels very bad. Leo and Gawain in the original Extra feel extremely bland, and their characters are only truly fleshed out outside of Extra. Also, Gawain might be a likable character nowadays, thanks to all the development he's had throughout various medias. But many people did not like him in Extra, myself included. He is introduced as a very rude character and kind of a blockhead. I also have to give a special mention to the various NPCs scattered throughout the school. So they play an iconic role throughout the entire game. You will have to go around talking with them to kinda uncover certain clues about certain masters. However, the part that's really interesting about them is how they change their lines with each round. So before the first round, if you talk with all of the NPCs scattered throughout the school, you'll see that their reactions and their behaviors are on the light-hearted side. They are very cheerful, they're happy, they're excited, they are all ready for this tournament-like game where they get to face each other for a prize. And then the first round ends. And oh boy, do they change their minds. After the first round, if you go around the school to look for NPCs, you'll notice that some of them have kind of just disappeared. Not only that, when you talk with them, you'll start to realize, oh, they're no longer thinking this is a game. They are realizing that this is a death game. And that's kind of the point. With each round, you'll start to see the NPCs becoming more and more desperate. Some are outright becoming insane, others are outright crying. And to be completely honest, this is perhaps one of the better sides of Fate Extra. It's a sensation that the longer the game goes, the more empty the school feels. All the life that it had in the beginning just slowly and steadily going out. However, I will say that they kinda did drop a ball a bit on this part. Because the school area is a safe zone, it does have a very upbeat kind of music that kinda removes the desperation side of things. So you'll have NPCs that are saying very sad and just depressing sentences, but the sound in the background is not really selling the desperation, let's put it that way. So while this part of the NPCs is really well made, it does have the issue that the music doesn't really sell it that well. Ah yes, probably the worst part of Extra. Don't get me wrong, the gameplay itself isn't too bad. It's a typical RPG dungeon crawler type game with an interesting concept for battle, where you have to pick your attack types in sort of a rock, paper, scissors and try to guess what the opponent is doing for maximum damage. The more you fight the same opponent, the easier it is to predict their next move. In the case of enemy servants, the more information you gather of them, the more information you get of their next move in a fight. It's a really creative way to make the whole figuring out who the opponent is and their weakness a part of the gameplay. However, there's one thing that needs to be talked about. The grind. Oh my lord, the grind is just too much. The game is meant to be played more than one time, but I never actually managed to complete my second run because of how grindy it is. At first, the grind isn't that noticeable, since the game mechanics feel fresh and new, but after a while it's just repetitive and the grinding really lowers the game's potential. And starting a second run feels even worse, because there isn't that freshness there to carry you throughout the early stages, making the grind feel even worse. Overall, the gameplay is good, but the grind is too much. I'm hyped for the remake. Even if the remake is a simple one-for-one remake with no new content, I feel like it will already have improved the original experience. Just from the trailer, we can already tell that there will be a heavy focus on body language and character expressions. This means that scenes that originally felt bland and still because of the stiffness of the models should now feel more dynamic and emotional. So I'm hoping that already powerful scenes will have a bigger impact, and many of the boring scenes will now have an impact that is similar, just from the animation. That said, there are a few things that I hope are changed about some characters. First of all, Shinji. Either make the reveal that he's a kid earlier on, or remove it entirely. Give Ranny more personality. She has to compete with Rin for the option, so you might as well just flesh her out more. You can even use the CC version as a reference for her in Extra. Do the same with Julius, Leo, and Gawain. All of these should be more fleshed out just like they were in Triple C than what we got from them in Extra. Maybe change some of the enemies? While Shinji, Dan, Alice, Julius, Rin and Ran, and Leo are important for the story, there's one round where the enemy is mostly a filler. While I did like Runbu and Vlad, they needed to be a bit more fleshed out for me to care that much about them. Again, having the twist only revealed at the end isn't that shocking. But please, for the love of God, either remove Monji Gato for another pair or change his servant. Yes, Gato is cool in Triple C, but in Extra he is as filler as it gets. And as much as I love seeing Arcade, can you actually put effort in making a servant we care about? She doesn't even die, she literally just leaves if she loses. No, if you want to make a reference for Arcuade, do it like you did with Shiki and put her in a secret area as a secret boss. Also, please, for the love of God, reduce the grinding. Oh my god, the grinding needs to just go away. Anyway, that was my opinion of Fate Extra. What about yours? What did you think of Fate Extra, and what do you hope from the Record Remake? Anyway, this was George Gale, and thank you for watching. If you enjoy my content, leave a like and subscribe. And also, comment down below. Hey, if there's a specific topic that you'd like me to discuss about, comment down below. Until next time, bye.